So let's move to the last speaker of this session, Giuseppe. Dr. Giuseppe Lugano is Science Officer at Cost Association in Brussels. What I am very pleased to say is that he's the former MOTIV project coordinator manager, and he was also our colleague at the University of Žilina. Unfortunately, he got back to the Cost Association. His extensive experience focuses on academic and business R&D projects connected to the use of ICT in the everyday life. He has the expertise on mobile communication, social networks, and community-oriented design of digital services. And today he will give a speech on looking back and moving forward, the history and legacy of the MOTIV project. So please, Giuseppe.
Thank you, Tatiana. I hope you hear me clear and well. From working from home and welcoming all the participants. I see we are many. I'm happy to see this warm reception of this event, and also the interest from the previous talks. I would like to say I'm not going to enter into the details of the results, because this will be the item we will discuss later in the other presentations. I'm here mostly to talk about the history and legacy of this project that is coming to an end. Why to take this perspective? Well, my father was an historian, and I like the idea that if we know better where we come from, we can also better understand where we are going. This is valid for me, maybe for any of you, and I think that if we take a more broader approach to the idea of the discipline and the contribution we are doing to society. So, to start with my personal involvement, you already said everything. I've been following this project from the very beginning, contributing to the submission, to the composition of the consortium, and later taking the responsibility of coordinating the work until October. This is a picture from the consortium and advisory board from the great meeting we had in Barcelona last September. And I'm thankful to Gadir and the whole team for having continued the great work until now. I need to take a perspective that is slightly different from the previous speakers and probably from all the other talks. I like to take also the view of the organization, the University of Žilina in Slovakia, and the context where the MOTIV project comes from. So for the moment, I'm not going to touch value of travel time as a discipline, but I hope you will appreciate the understanding of the origins of this effort. This Horizon project is actually connected to an ERA-Chair project. It was a pilot FP7 project called the ERADIATE. And this project was meant to unlock the research potential at the University of Žilina in the field of intelligent transport systems. It was not funding research, but rather organizational development and the various number of ambitious objectives, like improving the skill set of the institution in the area of intelligent transport system, cross-faculty collaboration, involvement of stakeholders, regional impact, visibility at the international level, and so on. Within this context, how do you achieve these goals? Well, one of the strategic aspects that were clear, we cannot start fulfilling these objectives without gaining Horizon projects, and especially if we gain them as a project coordinator. This was one of the important internal objectives set, and I'm happy that there was, shortly after I joined the team in September 2016, a very interesting call on changing value of travel time. Some of you may have even applied to this call because of the interest in the topic. And it was quite an interesting call because it was connecting somehow two different fields, value of travel time and shared mobility, under the same topic with different, it was a little bit different to decrypt what were the kind of needs. But seen from the organizational perspective, it was clear it was a great opportunity to strengthen traveler-centered interdisciplinary research at UNIZA, so making the synergy between the engineering and technical expertise in the faculties with the behavioral research, social science, and many other aspects that were not so interconnected in the collaboration in the institution, and also to put the attention, to shift the attention from the engineering and technical aspects more to the travelers' behaviors, lifestyles, and aspects that influence transport choice, but also the design of mobility services. And the value of travel time, as it was designed in this topic, as a kind of emerging, changing, and exploratory research, was a really interesting horizontal topic with the potential to contribute to many areas that were already existing in the institution, and also of international interests, including multimodal research, sustainability, emerging smart mobility solutions, like including autonomous vehicles, mobility as a service, and so on. Well, we were very lucky to have this project granted in May 2017. I have to say it was a big challenge for the institution also because it was the first Horizon project to granted as a coordinator, not only to the University of Žilina, but to the whole Slovakia. So it was a reason to be proud of, but also a challenge to meet the expectations. Now let's turn to the real keywords that I would like that we will also explore further in the coming presentations. It is not really travel time. In my opinion, the keyword we should pay attention is value. And I think that MOTIV in its essence is challenging and shaping the meaning of value in contemporary society. So the context is the move from industrial or post-industrial society to the information society, and different concepts that maybe economists or travel planners or transport planners with a kind of more conservative approach stick to. It's the whole literature on travel time goes back to the 60s, and the large majority of concepts that are still used have not changed that much since then, and they influence the way investments are allocated and also the way people then will use the service. So I put this photo with an economist that has been labeled by the London Times as the world's scariest economist, but she's actually a professor at the University College London, and actually she's a professor in economics of innovation and public value. So public value is important. Where public value comes from? In my opinion, it comes first of all from the needs of the people, citizens, in this case travelers, and also somehow the dynamics between the public investments and also role of the private actors and the innovations. This person, Mariana Mazzucato, also shaped the Horizon Europe missions. So I think that this kind of view, besides beyond MOTIV, is going to come maybe again in the future Horizon Europe calls that are related to sustainable mobility, smart mobility, but also other areas, maybe energy and other aspects. And I had here 2 quotes from the book, The Value of Everything. So some of the most important economic questions today are about to achieve a particular type of growth. Growth smarter, more sustainable, more inclusive. Actually, it's what we are trying to achieve in MOTIV, going beyond time savings. And then she adds, but besides adding new concepts to GDP, such as care or sustainability of the planet, it is fundamental to understand why we hold the assumptions about value that we do. And it is impossible if value as a concept is not scrutinized. So in MOTIV, we try to scrutinize value, taking an approach that becomes a big challenge of this project on broadening the meaning of value in value of travel time. And this is just a small quote. It is not about time savings only. Of course, these are still very important, but we should look more at the role of the perceptions, especially perception on the quality of time. And this goes into many factors and aspects that Imre and Christina already highlighted. There are several key aspects of the framework that we used in MOTIV. One of them that we call the traveler perspective is linked to the unit of the where to look at, the trip. And in this case, the trip is actually, when it is multimodal, it consists of several trip legs. And what was a kind of a shortcoming in the field so far, and also in the methods, we don't have a view of the traveler as a kind of a door-to-door trip, and then an assessment done at the level of the trip leg. So we try to do this, and we will talk later how we did, to demonstrate that time is not only money, but it's actually multidimensional values, multidimensional concepts, very subjective, and it is very contextual depending on many factors, including external ones like weather, that influence the value proposition of mobility. What is available, what I can use, and other factors that will shape my choice. And this, of course, goes also into the discussion about demonstrating that travel time is not necessarily unproductive, and exploring the role of digital connectivity and digital services. We will talk later about how we did, but it was through a smartphone-based data collection in several EU countries, and the open dataset was a basic means for stimulating the research. So what will MOTIV leave? Now, I think that it should not be only the participants of the MOTIV project remembering this project, or maybe the funders in Brussels. This is a collective memory that should be not only from this project, but in my view, from any project that is receiving public funding. It should contribute to, also in the scientific sense, to develop a field of knowledge, and also in the case of applied sciences in applications. So this is the tree. We provided the strong foundations. Let's see how strong, and initial seeds. I go back to the institutional context, because we can talk about how much the value of travel time as a field was developed, but let's have a look how the University of Žilina benefited so far from this project. Well, we have to say it is an initial contribution, a single project lasting for 2.5 years with ambitious objectives. It's a kind of a stepping stone, but it's something to be further developed. We had enhanced the cross-faculty collaborations. From the publications, you can see that there were Slovak and international colleagues, actually international researchers like me, attracted to the institution, co-authoring the publications, some involvement of other international experts, visiting researchers, application of some elements of MOTIV in other projects that were funded, and also an increased visibility both at the national level, but also in the international context, in particular towards ITS stakeholders. And from an education perspective, there were many opportunities to showcase value of travel time also to local students as an interesting conceptual area, but also with a clear application potential. You have seen already this. It's a very nice operationalization of the elements of worthwhile travel time that we use in MOTIV. It's also the way we will conceptualize in the MOTIV app, in the data collection, the dimensions of value of travel time. I'm not going into the details here, but I can say that the approach involved a lot of challenges that were from the very technical point of view, on a very how to implement the app, interoperability in the different devices, usability, design, and putting this into the context of a data collection campaign, having a very broad audience, and also having to take into account many factors. So this was challenging. There will be more on this later. I can say that on the extensions, it will be very interesting in the future to explore the use of smartwatches, wearables, and also the support of artificial intelligence to further refine this approach, maybe also connecting the data with the public sources. This was not covered in MOTIV. It was something nice to have, but not we didn't have the resources. But it certainly has the potential for future projects. I'm coming more or less towards the end. I would like to go back to the individual traveler, citizen, person. When we started thinking about how to shape MOTIV as an approach based on the traveler, the immediate connection was to Maslow's scale of needs. We had to have a look at what are the human needs and then build on this. Recently, I found another interesting model that was from Stephen Covey in a book, very famous book on leadership and personal development. And he proposes this model with four relevant dimensions of the human being: body, heart, mind, and spirit, each of them connected to activities. And the point is that if we want to be effective, we have to keep these dimensions in balance. So I saw a nice connection to the dimensions of the conceptual framework we used in MOTIV, where it is clear that fitness as a kind of element of worthwhile travel time as a point in connection to the body, the productivity, learning, working, and many other aspects is clearly important for the mind, but also the emotions, the heart, and even going to the well-being, the aspirations are something to be taken in very important consideration when designing this kind of services and accounting for how people perceive and appreciate value and use time while traveling, but also more in general in their lives. This was a recurrent question when we presented the MOTIV approach. Where does the framework come from? Have you come up with something that is, let's say, not scientific enough? And the answer is it is grounded on the theories of human needs in general. So this is, of course, something to be further developed and best if integrated with existing body of knowledge on value of travel time. In September 2019, I had the privilege to present the MOTIV project to the high-level roundtable by OECD International Transport Forum. And I learned a lot, and I hope also participants learned quite much from MOTIV. In general, there was I could notice a quite clear country tradition. Some countries with a more conservative approach and view on value of travel time, some other countries with the wish to open up to more factors, to give different weights to important factors. And they saw an approach like MOTIV as an opportunity to feed even purely economic-based approaches to value of travel time. So we are talking about exploratory research and a new type of approach, but still with the potential to contribute to the existing body of knowledge on this. Of course, with the support of people who have been working on this topic. And with this, I stop here. So I hope you have the feeling on the MOTIV history and its legacy. We will hear more from my colleagues that I would like to thank again for this long and intense journey that was MOTIV, and the pleasure I had to work both with the colleagues in Žilina and with the consortium. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giuseppe. Thank you for your very interesting presentation.